Oh, yeah. What's going on, my friends? Now 3 o'clock. The Trailblazers made it back-to-back wins after last night's 116-107 victory over the Heat. Ant dropped 24, a team high. 22 points and 15 rebounds for DeAndre Ayton, all 5 starters in double figures. Portland plays the first of back-to-back games tomorrow night in Orlando. Tip-off at 4. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 2. Here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Elsewhere, Jimmy Butler played last night against the Blazers. Now is going to be suspended again by the Heat for 2 games after missing a team flight. Championship Sunday at noon on Fox. Commanders are at the Eagles. Philly is favored by 6. Bills at the Chiefs at 3:30 on CBS. KC playing in their 7th straight AFC title game. They're favored by 2. Ben Johnson was introduced as the Bears' new coach, and the Jets are hiring Aaron Glenn, so Dan Campbell will have to replace both coordinators for the Lions. Rip City Drive's coming up next. Sean Hike and our Trailblazers Insider at 3:20. We'll go to Kansas City and talk Chiefs at 4:20. Michael Holton in studio at 5:20. All right, that's a great song. The Heat is on by Glenn Fry. Shacker just informed me that the Miami Heat used this to open up their broadcast on the Heat radio network. Of course, the Trailblazers beat the Heat last night in Miami. I've seen the Eagles live many a times, over 20 times. This is one of the Glenn Fry songs we never got to, unfortunately. Just about everything else. Smuggler's Blues sounds great live, too. All right, what's going on, man? You having a good Wednesday? I'm enjoying the sunshine. It's been a little nipply out there in the mornings, but loving the sunshine and the blue skies. It makes me very happy. I'm feeling good today, and we got a big show coming up. Sean Hike and our Trailblazer Insider will stop by at 3:20 to talk some hoop. We're going to head to Kansas City coming up at 4:20. Todd Lebo, who covers the Chiefs for WHB, is going to join us. We'll get his take on the AFC Championship game. What a game this is. To me, the Chiefs and Bills this Sunday, it's like watching the Cowboys and 49ers from the early 90s when those teams were battling out for supremacy in the NFL. Because I believe the winner of that game is going to win the championship. I'm also excited about Philly and Washington. Jaden Daniels, best rookie season ever. And he's got a chance to go to a Super Bowl in his first year with a brand new ownership group and a brand new coaching staff. He's been nothing short of miraculous, and his play against Detroit last weekend was awesome. And then you got Philadelphia. Crazy coach who righted the ship, best talent in football from top down on both sides. And they've got Saquon Barkley, who's an MVP candidate, who ran for over 2,000 yards, who went for over 200 yards in the game last week. So we got 2 great matchups. It's one of the best weekends in sports, as is the divisional round. Unfortunately, there'll be a matinee Trailblazer game. So I'll be pulling double duty, watching the Blazers and the AFC Championship game at the same time on Sunday. So the games are at noon. Starts with the Commanders and Eagles, followed by the Chiefs and Bills at 3:30. The only unfortunate part about the broadcast, watching the Chiefs and Bills, Tony Romo is going to be on the call again. And Tony Romo has diarrhea of the mouth. He obviously has not been well medicated over the last few weeks, and he constantly tramples on Jim Nantz. Tony Romo should consider himself fortunate that Jim Nantz is in love with him, because he loves Tony so much, he allows Tony to butcher his calls all the time. Hey, Tony, you need to settle down. You need to make sure you take your medication and make sure you do not trample on Jim Nantz this weekend, okay? It's a big game. Settle it down and stop walking all over Jim Nantz, who's one of the greats. Tony, gosh, it's so crazy, man. Stop trying to tell me what's going to happen before it happens. Take your meds and just settle down and only do what Jim tells you to do. And again, you're lucky that he loves you. If not, he would have had your ass fired for being out of control. You're out of control, okay? All right. You can reach out to me if you want to jump on board. That's fine. And whatever you want to talk about, 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. You can find me on social. at Chad and Rip City. I want to remind everyone, for you Blazer fans out there, if you utilize the iHeartRadio app, we stream every single Trailblazer game on the app. You can pull up the station. You can listen to Trailblazer games. You can do it from anywhere. At home, in the car with the Bluetooth, whatever the case may be. I just wanted to remind you that you can actually stream the Trailblazer games on the iHeartRadio app. All right, we'll get to ball in just a moment, but I want to break this down real quick because I did not know this place existed until today, and I need to get there. And this goes back to what happened last week. I was talking with Tony and Boring, good man, good listener, and a friend, and we were talking about video games, and we were talking about Contra. I think this started with Chris Burkhardt and I. When we first got the Nintendo, you got to keep in mind, we grew up in the arcade era. So when I was younger, going to the arcade was the best thing ever. And my mom, when we lived in Colorado, we lived up on top of a mountain. So to get into Denver, for her to go shopping or to do whatever she needed to do, was about a 25 to 30-minute drive. Well, she often did not want to go by herself. And so she would try to lure me in to go on the ride with her so I could accompany her on the trip to the mall. I think it was called Southwest Plaza. They had another one like Cinderella City. Those were the two malls, and they both had badass arcades. So what my mom would do is she'd be like, hey, I'm going to go into town. You want to come? And I'd be like, no, I'm good because I wanted to go ride my motorcycle or go outside and shoot hoop or, I lived on top of a mountain, so I could literally go exploring and not have anyone around. It was awesome. But what she would do, and she knew how to trick me, she'd pull a 1-2 skidoo, and she's like, I'll give you money for the arcade. Well, I'm in. So I would go with her just because I knew she was going to supply me with the cash necessary to play a bunch of video games. And it was a great time in my life. And then I went to the first youth group event at an arcade, which was an all-nighter. And then it occurred to me that you can load up the machines with credits? No way. It was awesome, man. You go up to a machine, you want to play a game, and it's just loaded up with credits. And you just hit play, 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 boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, have you ever played a whole game super high impact football?
Yes.
That takes like $4.
Yeah, it's expensive. And I have a buddy, Scott Boothby, who, when they were transitioning the Vancouver Mall arcade from the old games, the 80s, to the new games, he went and bought a bunch of them for like 25 cents on the dollar, and he loaded up his basement area, and he turned it into an arcade. And he went over there, and I took a look at it. I was like, okay, this is awesome. So we had arcades, and then we were introduced to the Atari. My parents got the Intellivision, and so me and my buddy David, who lived next door, we would just rotate cribs and play games. It was awesome. Well, a few years later, we were introduced to the Nintendo Entertainment System. And this took gaming to a brand new level with Super Mario Brothers, Contra, Tecmo Bowl, the whole shebang. Well, Contra was an incredible game, and I was talking with Brink and a couple other people. The peak childhood at about age 13 or 14 was pulling an all-nighter to complete Contra and save the world, or to play Tecmo Bowl with your boy all night long. It was the greatest. Well, anyways, Tony, he goes, what's your address? Like, anytime a listener's asking for your address, that could be a little bit dicey, but I said, I gave it to him. I said, he didn't tell me what he was going to send. And I got it in the mail a few days ago. It was this Super Nintendo system that was like really tiny, like a miniature system that's got like a computer chip in it, and it's got like 821 games on it. He just sent it to me. So I'm like, well, I got to check this out. So I hooked it up, and I started playing Contra, and it was like 1989 all over again. And before you know it, 3 hours had passed, and I woke up the next morning a couple of days ago. My left wrist and my left forearm were just absolutely fatigued. And I was explaining that to my workout partner, Luke, today before we trained, and we were talking about games, and he's got one of those systems. I didn't even know they existed. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And his kids like some of the older games. Well, he told me this past week, and he went to this place out in Hillsboro. He's like, yeah, it's some type of pinball museum or something. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of that place. How can I not know about this place? So he started explaining it, and then I pulled it up. It's called Next Level Pinball Museum. And it's out in Hillsboro. Now, how in the hell can I have never heard about this place? Voted world's favorite pinball arcade in 2021, 2022, and 23. And it says here, there are over 650 pinball machines and arcade games on the floor, with over 615 plus of those games on free play with no quarters or card needed. The additional 40 pieces that are not included on the free play are items like claw machines. And I know people that own claw machines. Those are one of the biggest shams in the history of the world. A photo booth, and the games that dispense collectible cards. For the most part, games that give items are not on free play, but all of the other games are included with your admission. 27,000 square feet, pop culture museum with floor-to-ceiling lunchboxes and signed movie paraphernalia and toys and collectibles. Even if you don't play a single game on your visit, it takes several hours to walk through the museum and look at all of the items on the walls. All right. Well, what I found out was, what Luke was telling me, you pay one price to go in. It's like $22 for an all-day wristband. And so Luke took a few of his kids with him, and you buy the wristband. You can take food in. If you want to bring your own food, that's fine. You can leave and then come back. The $22 is all day, and here's the best part. You get to play all the games, as many as you want. No quarters. It's loaded up with credits. It's on free play. I've got to get to this place. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you've been there and you've had a chance to play some of the pinball machines or the video games or whatever, will you please call and let me know what it's like? Because I want to go out there really bad. I really was tempted to just cancel the show today and have Shacker put on some type of paid programming so I could go out to Hillsboro, but I decided to do the show instead. I decided work would take priority.
You could probably do the show out there, and I could put you on like a Bluetooth headset, and you could just talk sports while you're playing pinball.
But isn't this place great? Shacker, this place is awesome.
Yeah, I really want to go there. You're a good salesman for this place. I can't wait to spend some time out there.
Oh, my gosh. All right, so this is great, man. I love places like this. I guess
now,
what
how
I like
good
is
shape is the pinball? Because pinball is only good if the machine has been taken care of.
No.
Have you ever played pinball on a broken machine?
No. This is the best part. A lot of arcades you would go into throughout the course of my life, a lot of out-of-order signs or machines that were busted or whatever the case may be, or
one
a flimsy
flipper doesn't
joystick.
work.
Yeah. Well, that's not the case here. Luke said that it's well-maintained and every machine was in immaculate condition. He's playing like Karate Champ and Star Wars and all the other games. So I'm all over this place. I'm there. I am going to go. I can't wait to check it out.
And some good pinball from the 90s has not been taken care of. I've played a lot of pinball on Twilight Zone tables
Yes.
that have not been taken care of. Because there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things you need to keep in shape to make it worth your time.
Well, I forgot the name of the machine. We had a pinball machine in the house when I was younger, and I played it all the time, and I became an expert pinball artist. My guess would be that somewhere inside of this museum that pinball machine exists, and I want to go check it out, which is pretty sweet. I still hold the one-ball record on my Uncle Gordon's machine in Colorado Springs, but one of his relatives came over and busted my five-ball record. And inside, underneath the glass, he writes the initials of the people that hold the records. I'm still bitter that guy took me out because I wanted to hold all the spots because it had been there for like 30-plus years, and I got outdone. That's very annoying, Shacker. All right, so there you go, next level. Never been there, but I'm going to be there, and I can't wait to check it out. And Shacker said he's never been either. But isn't it cool? I just like getting a little taste or getting a chance to relive some portion of my younger days. And for me, it was about the arcade. Going to arcades, being a part of that scene, it was awesome. All right, coming up next, we'll talk with Sean Highkin, our Trailblazer insider, and we'll get his take on primarily the play of Scoot over the last 5 games. He's been sensational, and I'm hoping it's got some staying power. Sean Highkin's up next. We'll go to Kansas City and talk AFC title game at 4:20, and then Michael Holton in studio at 5:20. It's Chad doing. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, at 4:20, we're going to go to Kansas City and talk with Todd Lebo and get the latest on the AFC Championship game coming up on Sunday. That kickoff at 3:30. Right now, the Chiefs are a 2-point favorite. Very happy to go to the phones and welcome in our Trailblazers insider. You read him at rosegardenreport.com. Sean Highkin is back on the show. Sean, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Scoot's play over the last 5 games, it's the best stretch of his career. Is this just a blip, or are we seeing him start to take the next step or go to the next level with his game?
I think the thing that's encouraging about this is that this is not the time of year that it happened last year. Because remember, he had a really good last 6 weeks of the season last year, but that was kind of after the Blazers had already, punted on the season and started shutting guys down. And, most of the teams they were playing were, resting guys or, doing whatever they were doing. That was just the part of the season where you just kind of don't feel, there's only so much that you can read into that. What he's doing right now, he's doing against, the Blazers are actually playing their guys, and he's doing it against teams that are, for the most part, actually playing their guys. So in that sense, I would say it's the most quote unquote real thing that, stretch of play that he's had so far. And we'll just see if it continues.
Yeah, it's nice to see him out there playing with confidence. And I don't know if you see the same thing I do, but over the last 5, it really seems like the game is slowing down for him, even with his reaction and handling of the zone defense against Miami. Are you seeing that too?
It's starting to, yeah. I mean, you're starting to see him not get sped up as much as he has been. This is something that Chauncey Billups has called out a number of times that, he's starting to get really consistent with it, and he's starting to, make the right reads more often than not, and set guy. You see how much of a willing passer he is. That stuff has always been there, and now it's just, the finishing, I think, still needs to get to a certain place for him to really have the kind of impact that people thought he was going to have when they drafted him 3rd overall. But definitely what they're seeing over really over this month has been pretty encouraging.
Yeah, no doubt. We need to see more. I guess the reason why I'm excited about this recent stretch of play from him is, a couple of months ago, I was greatly concerned about his development or lack thereof. And now with his recent play, he's providing some optimism that he's going to turn the corner, which is great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think everybody was concerned about it earlier on in the season. I mean, the thing you got to remember, though, is the kid's 20. Like, he's not even old enough to drink yet. So, it's still so early in this thing. And I think we're starting to see kind of around the NBA, you look at the other G League Ignite guys, and, we're starting to feel like maybe there's a reason that thing shut down after a few years, and maybe, it's going to, all those guys are kind of having really, I guess, circuitous development paths, and it's not like any of those guys have really come out of the gate and just been an all-star, or even the guys that were high draft picks. So I think, you're starting to see, I think we're kind of starting to, it's taking him a little bit longer, but it seems like, for, again, everything that's happened in the last month or so has been pretty encouraging when it comes to Scoot. We're
talking with our Trailblazer insider, Sean Highkin, here on the Rip City Drive. What was your reaction to Shaedon Sharpe getting benched, and how do you think he's responded to that in the last 2 games?
I didn't have an issue with Chauncey doing it. I think, he has struggled on the defensive end of the floor over the last couple of weeks or so. And so when Chauncey made that decision, I understood it. And, to Shaedon's credit, I thought he had a really good game against the Bulls the other night. And then we talked to him after the game, and he said, he understood the decision. He knows he has to get better defensively, and he has the ability to do it. And it's just a matter of doing it consistently. And I think between that game and then also, last night in Miami, I thought he was solid again off the bench. I don't know the timeline of when maybe he would get put back into the starting lineup. That's either going to happen with injuries or with anything, that could happen in the next couple weeks as far as roster stuff. But I think so far he's handled it the right way, and he's responded to it the right way. And, as Chauncey said, the reason that he's doing this is because he thinks that Shaedon has the potential to be so much better than he's been on that end, and he wants to really, put something on the line for him to have to do that every night.
All right, Deni Avdija. I mean, he was great again last night, double-double, probably the team MVP thus far, he and Toumani Camara. Do you think Deni's exceeding the Trailblazers' expectations for him coming into the season right now?
Well, their expectations have to have been pretty high if they gave up 2 first-round picks for him, but they are – I know that, behind the scenes, they're thrilled with what he's brought And really, there was this one play last night against the Heat where Robert Williams gets a block, and I think it was on Khalil. I forget who on the Heat it was on, but Robert Williams gets this block, and Denny gets the rebound and just absolutely just jets off, all cross court for a layup, and it's as fast as I've ever seen any non 6'2" point guard run.
Yeah, he is. I mean, Flash is a perfect nickname for him, man, because when he gets the ball, he is always looking to attack. In fact, I think the first play of the game last night, he took off down floor and just outran everyone and got fouled and got to the free throw line. I love his energy. I love his attitude. I'm a big fan of his. He can do a lot of different things on the floor, but he seems to be well embraced in the locker room too. His comments, his leadership. I've been thoroughly impressed. Donovan Clingan dealing with the sprained ankle. When do you think we'll see him back on the floor? What's your best guess on that, Sean?
Well, he's listed as out for tomorrow in Orlando, so not tomorrow. I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that he could play Friday in Charlotte against the Hornets in the last game of the road trip, but I don't want to say that for sure, but I don't think it's going to be too much longer. I think, once they get past this road trip, they're home for 7 games in a row, and I think that's a reasonable expectation for when maybe he could be back soon. But I don't think we know for sure he's not playing tomorrow, but we don't know anything beyond that. But I don't think it'll be too much longer.
All right, what's the latest that you're hearing with the NBA trade deadline?
Not a whole lot. I think the Jimmy Butler stuff is kind of taking up all the oxygen right now. That deal that Phoenix made yesterday with Utah to get, they sent one of their own first-round picks to get, 3 other, lesser picks just to have more of a volume of picks. I think them and Miami are kind of trying to put together more of a multi-team thing at this point to try to get the Jimmy thing done, and I think the rest of the league is just kind of sitting back waiting for that to get resolved one way or the other, and that could become like a 4 or 5 team type of thing. And then once that happens, that's going to lead to whatever deal gets other deals get made as far as other guys. I haven't really heard much strong buzz about as it relates to the Blazers, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, any of the guys that they theoretically have on the trade block. I don't think there's a ton going on there right now, but we're still 2 weeks away from the trade deadline, so a lot could change. But I think for right now, everybody's kind of waiting to see how this Jimmy thing plays out.
Interesting. What do you think about the job that Danny Ainge has done so far in terms of stockpiling some assets?
He's stockpiled a lot of them, and I thought it was kind of a smart gamble to, because they got all the picks and stuff that they had got from the Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell trades. They basically were able to turn the worst out of those 3 picks in 3 different years into one really potentially really good pick. And I know it's kind of hard to forecast out. This is a 2031 pick from Phoenix that they got. That's 6 years out. Who knows how what anybody's going to look like by then, or who's going to be, if any of these guys, like is Danny Ainge even still going to be the GM in 2031? That's so far out to try to project or try to forecast. But they made the bet that that pick is going to be more valuable than the 3rd out of 3 picks that they're going to have in 3 different years. So I thought that was pretty smart.
All right. So with the Trailblazers, then you pretty much stand the same. That if someone gets moved by the deadline, would likely be Jeremy Grant, and then coming up in the summer, that's when the Blazers can look to moving Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton. Is that kind of where you sit today? The same.
Well, DA, I definitely don't think there's going to be a market for him before the deadline. And Jeremy both are kind of in this spot where I could see them, especially with the way Scoot's been playing lately. I wonder if that's going to make the Blazers a little bit more motivated to try to, canvass the market with Simons and see if anything makes sense to do. But I would still, just because of how quiet everything has been right now, I would still err on the side of less happening rather than more happening before the deadline. But I think it's become pretty clear who is and isn't, a long-term piece here, whether anything happens at the deadline or happens over the summer.
All right, Sean Highkin, you can read him at rosegardenreport.com. He's our Trailblazers insider, and he joins us here on the Rip City Drive every week. Well, Sean, like usual, I appreciate your time, my friend. The Blazers get back-to-back games tomorrow and on Friday before they come back home for a home game on Sunday afternoon. So we look forward to hearing more from you, but thanks for your time.
Yeah, of course.
All right, Sean Highkin, Make sure you check out his website, rosegardenreport.com. All right, so the Blazers, to give you a quick summary on what I've been able to gather from Sean Highkin, the Blazers, the likely first piece to be moved would be Jeremy Grant. There's a chance that could happen before the deadline coming up at the beginning of February. But Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton, more likely summertime pieces to be moved out. So, look, I understand your frustration. I hear from the fans all the time. Joe Cronin's done a pretty good job here of acquiring some young pieces. And, of course, they'll be part of the lottery again this year. We got to pray to the good Lord above that they land Cooper Flagg. My God, how good would that be? Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg. I try not to watch him too much because I get excited and I don't want to suffer the disappointment once again of not landing a guy like that. But there's some great players coming up in the draft. So we know that Denny Avdia is part of the future. Young piece, awesome. Tamani Kamara, defensive stalwart, awesome. Donovan Clingan, quite a steal in the first round of the draft. He looks very promising. Shaden Sharp, definitely a part of the future. And then Scoot, man, his play over the last 5 games has been awesome. And I got to remind myself, he's only 20. He'll be 21 here in the very near future. Still young, but, man, the last 5 games have been dope. Playing with confidence, playing under control, making good decisions, and making shots. Showing his athleticism. Like, Scoot, it's not even fair, man. At 20 years old, he has a beautiful body. The quad development, the shoulders, the athleticism. The guy's chiseled from stone. He's 20. It's like, dude, you got a grown man body, my friend. So to see him play the way he has, especially the last 5 games, his best stretch of his career, but also the last few weeks, he's played much better. So I'm very encouraged with what I see from Scoot. And I got to be honest with you, after last year and at the start of this season, I was gripping. Like, what's going on here with this guy? But now he's starting to really emerge, which is nice. And good for Chauncey for benching Sharp. I agree with Chauncey. Sharp's got potential to be great, but you can't be lollygagging on defense, man. You got to nut up and get out there and defend. So, look, they've got 4 to 5 young pieces that are part of the future, and now they can start to move off of some of these veterans, open up more time for the youngsters so this group can go together. And then you go into the summer and you add a stud piece from the draft. That's pretty much how that's going to work. All right, we'll have more basketball with Michael Holton coming up at 5:20. Former Trailblazer and current radio and television analyst in studio for Holton on Hoops. Big fan of Michael. Love talking with Michael. Michael's a smart guy. He's a good dude, and I always enjoy having him in studio. All right, back to football. So the Bears, Ben Johnson was introduced as Bears coach. I like the hire a lot. It's the right hire for the Bears. Now, there's no guarantee that Ben Johnson is going to come in and be a leader of men. That's always the risky part when you bring in the coordinator. Like Cliff Kingsbury, head coach in Arizona, not so good. Offensive coordinator in Washington, phenomenal. You don't know how guys are going to react to being in that role. Do you have the ability to be an a-hole when you have to be an a-hole? Do you have the ability to really create a culture and make sure discipline is a part of that? Hold guys accountable. Or are guys just going to walk all over you because you don't like conflict and you're too nice? Building a culture, like I respect these guys that can do that. It's so hard to step in and take over a team that's had a history of losing and building a culture and creating that trust, having accountability, hiring the right people. When you're in charge, it's a different ballgame. Now Ben Johnson is in charge of Chicago. And let's be frank, their offense for most of my life has been awful, most of it. But they've got the young quarterback, and now they bring in the offensive mind. It's the right type of coach to hire based on who you have at quarterback. And Caleb Williams came out just last week and said, yeah, I'd like to have a young offensive coach that I can grow with. But the big question is, can you be a leader of men? Dan Campbell, head coach in Detroit, when he was introduced as head coach, we all thought he was crazy. It's because he is crazy, but what he can do is build a culture and have accountability, and guys will follow him. He's a leader, and he cares, and that's what it's all about. So can Ben Johnson do that? I don't know. We're going to find out, but I like the idea of pairing Caleb Williams with him. Their big mistake, they're dumb. They should have hired him last year or made a pursuit of Ben Johnson last year, but instead they kept Eberflus. Bad idea. but they moved off it real quick, and now they went out and got the right guy. And you need that. Look at what Jaden Daniels is doing in Washington. He's playing in the NFC title game. They went out and got the right offensive coordinator, and they drafted the quarterback that he wanted to work with. And Kingsbury has built an offense to accentuate the talents of his QB. And now he's got a chance to get to the Super Bowl. That's pretty awesome. So I like what the Bears did. The Jets, they wanted Aaron Glenn. They're going to hire Aaron Glenn. And Aaron Glenn, I give him a better chance to really create a culture. I like his attitude. I like his toughness. The question is, can he overcome the stupidity in the front office of the Jets and their ownership? Dum-dums is what the Jets are. They're morons. Their franchise sucks. It stinks to high heaven, but Aaron Glenn is good, and maybe he can get them on track. Now the big question is, are they going to move off Aaron Rodgers? Do they want to keep Aaron Rodgers? How are they going to handle that whole mess? I don't know. But I like Aaron Glenn a lot. I thought he did a heck of a job. You know, everyone's worried about Detroit and not getting over the hump, and they got whacked by Washington last week. I actually think it's a miracle that they were able to keep it together down the stretch and get the number 1 seed based on all the injuries they had on defense. And this is why I went last year after they lost to the 49ers in the NFC title game. This is why I said it's important to have a coach that makes good decisions. You never know if you're going to get another look at it. They had the 49ers beat. And then Dan Campbell decided to go for it because that's what we do. Instead of kick the field goal and make it a 3-score game, and he got cold-cocked in the second half. And now look, they didn't even get back to the NFC title game. Sports is very fragile, man. You think you'll get back, you think there's going to be a bunch of opportunities, and then all of a sudden there's not. And you missed out on your chance. And I'd say the same thing to Jaden Daniels. I know you're a rookie. I know the team's young. I know you have a new ownership group and a new coaching staff. Do everything you can to get to the bowl now because there's no guarantee you're going to get back there. Just ask good old Dan Marino. He went to a Super Bowl early in his career, didn't get back to another one. There's no guarantee. Unless, of course, you're Patrick Mahomes and you go to every Super Bowl that's available. 7 straight AFC title games for the Chiefs. That's amazing. And Buffalo, they've had a look at it now, and here once again are the Kansas City Chiefs. They've been whacked out of the playoffs 3 times by the Chiefs, and now they get 4th chance in Kansas City at Arrowhead and a chance to go to the Super Bowl. The question is, can they get over? Can they finally exorcise the demons? I don't know. My guess would be no. I like Kansas City to win the game. I'll get into more of that later, but props to the Bears for getting an offensive mind to work with Caleb. And Aaron Glenn, like, I like him. I just feel bad for him having to try and work his magic with the Jets, a crap franchise. The Browns and Jets should be contracted from the NFL. If I was commissioner, if I took over for Roger Goodell, I would contract the Jets and Browns immediately, just on the basis of stupidity and their ownership group. That's how I would handle that. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. We'll talk with Todd Lebo from Kansas City at 4:20, and then Mike Holden at 5:20. I'm Chad Doing. You're listening to the Rip City Drive on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars are parting ways with general manager Trent Baalke. He's not very good at his job. They missed out on Liam Cohen, and now they're going to part ways. That's probably a good decision for them. I didn't like the way he handled the situation there in San Francisco when things went south with Jim Harbaugh. The best moment in Trent Baalke's Jaguars career came during a press conference when he ripped a fart mid-sentence and didn't even skip a beat. It's still one of the elite moves by a GM and a classic old guy maneuver when it comes to the Bronx cheer.
Still got a couple of days going through. Coach and I haven't sat down and gone through the final board yet.
That's an amazing situation there for Trent Baalke. That's his finest moment with the Jags. Nice work, Trent. Really appreciate that. So Aaron Glenn, everyone that knows Aaron Glenn says that guys or anyone would run through a wall for him. I want the best for Aaron Glenn, but he's taking on a tough challenge there with the Jets, the Jets, Jets. And now Ben Johnson's in Chicago. I like the hire. We'll see if he can be a good head coach, but it is a smart maneuver to partner a young offensive mind. And that was their number one target with rookie, soon-to-be second-year quarterback Caleb Williams. So we'll see how things shake out. But that was a good move. The problem is now the Lions are going to have to search for new coordinators. And it's always hard for a head coach when you have to replace great coordinators with other coordinators. And this is where you find out how well-connected a coach is in the NFL. Coaching is largely about connections and having the ability to go out and find new guys when you lose good ones. And that's the problem with success in the NFL. When you're good, other teams are going to pluck away your coordinators. That's how it goes. So we'll see how Dan Campbell's able to manage this situation. But don't be surprised if Detroit takes a step back next year as they transition off of two terrific coordinators in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to get back to the Super Bowl. They're actually trying to win 3 straight for the first time ever. That's never happened before in the NFL. In the Super Bowl era, no team has won 3 straight, which is pretty impressive. It's tough to do, but the Chiefs have a chance to get back. They're in their 7th consecutive AFC title game. And look, do the Chiefs get a lot of preferential calls from the officials? Yes, I believe that. Were there a couple of bad calls in the game against Houston this past weekend? Absolutely. Does Patrick Mahomes bait defenders into trying to hit him and flop and play the superstar game? No question about it. But I stopped short of saying that they win and they're successful because they get preferential treatment. I understand what's going on here. People get really mad at you when you win all the time. And the Chiefs are great. Andy Reid has been sensational in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback I've ever seen. And they're on the verge of winning a 3rd straight Super Bowl. When you win like that and you dominate the NFL and you make a game that's really hard look that easy, people are going to take issue with anything that goes on. But aside from the preferential calls that Patrick Mahomes and their offense gets from time to time, and the fact that they have a tackle that gets to start 3 seconds before the play begins, the reason why they win is not because they get preferential calls or because they're lucky. You can hate on a team, that's fine, but don't disrespect them. They win because they have great players. They win because Patrick Mahomes is better than everybody else. And so is Travis Kelce. And they've got a good offensive line. And their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, is one of the best in the business at creating pressure. They've been in these big moments in these big games so much that when they get into a tight situation in the 4th, they call the right plays, they execute, and they get the job done. They don't make mistakes. Like the Texans, for example. They played a pretty good game against the Chiefs. They put themselves in a position to compete late in the game and win. But they had issues getting plays in. Their special teams were a complete disaster. And they made mistakes. And you can't do that on the road at Kansas City if you hope to win in advance. So I don't want to hear about the whining and complaining from the Texans in regards to the officiating when they didn't handle their own business. It's not the bad calls that prevented them from winning. It's their own lack of execution. That's what it comes down to. And for the Chiefs, the reason why I think they're going to win the game on Sunday, I don't have to overthink this stuff. Who's got the best quarterback in the game? Well, the Chiefs do. Who's got the best coach in the game? Oh, yeah, that'd be the Chiefs. Who's playing at home where they're nearly unbeatable? Once again, that's the Chiefs. I think Buffalo is a really, really good team. I think Buffalo is capable of going into Kansas City and winning that football game. But they're not going to. And that's because Steve Spagnuolo will dial up the pressure. They won't allow the Bills to run the football with a ton of effectiveness, and they'll force Josh Allen to have to be everything. And that's where a mistake or two will come in, and then Patrick Mahomes come fourth quarter will make the right plays at the right times to move the chains and put his team in a position to score. And for some reason, Travis Kelce, when he reaches the postseason, he goes to a different level. And the connection between him and Patrick Mahomes is special. And Andy Reid, got to give him credit. He's very flexible. He will go with whatever his strengths are. He'll call a different type of game every time out if he has to. Whatever it takes to win is what he and Patrick Mahomes are willing to do. Patrick Mahomes, I love him because he's not tied into numbers. He's not worried about what his final stat line is at the end of a game. Did we get the win? Are we moving forward and having a chance to win 3 straight Super Bowls? I mean, it pains me to say it because they're in the same division as my team, the Broncos, but the Chiefs are great. They're great, and they win because they're great, and they execute well, and they're very good at situational football. That's what it is. You don't get to 7 straight AFC title games without being elite. So I don't like the disrespect that they get because they get preferential calls, and they do. But we've been seeing this in sports forever. Like I told you, I take the same approach with football or any other sport, the same I do with basketball. I work off the assumption that the officials are going to be somewhat terrible in every game. So when they make a bad call or screw something up, I don't get completely ticked off. I don't lose my mind. But for the Bills, they're going to have to execute and play well and limit mistakes if they're going to have a chance to win this game on Sunday. Now, who do I want to win? I guess Kansas City. I like the storyline in the Super Bowl of a team being in a position to win 3 straight. That's all. I like that storyline. I want to see that happen. Philadelphia, Kansas City will be a great matchup. Philadelphia, Buffalo will be a great matchup. No matter which teams get in, it's going to be a great Super Bowl. And if the Commanders get in, what a great storyline that is with Jaden Daniels, new ownership group, new coaching staff, and a rookie QB in the Super Bowl. First time since the 91 season. What's amazing to me is that the Redskins and now the Commanders, one of the most proud franchises in the NFL and one of the most successful. But when Daniel Snyder took over, he was a complete maroon, and he ruined the franchise. And the team was garbage, hot trash for an extended period of time. And as soon as he's gone, look at what happens. You get smart people in the right places making good decisions, and they're right back to their winning ways. Dan Snyder was terrible, but now they're in a great position. And they had great, great balance in that game that went over Detroit. Jaden Daniels was money. He's calm, he's poised, he's very accurate, and he's underrated athletic. You don't think he's moving fast, and yet he's moving fast. And he makes good decisions. Very sharp for a young man. So we'll see. I think Kansas City and Philadelphia. The problem with the Eagles, even though their passing game's been hit or miss so far, their defense, their offensive and defensive lines are so good, and they can run the football with authority. It's going to be very difficult for Washington to go into that house and pull out a win. But I'm looking forward to the games. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Todd Lebo from Kansas City talking AFC title game coming up at 4:20. You've got the Rip City Drive. Oh, what's going on? 4 o'clock chat here. Blazers back-to-back wins after last night's 116-107 victory over the Heat. Simons with 24 at team high, 22 points, 15 boards for Ayton, double-double for Deni Avdija, all 5 starters in double figures. Portland with their first of a back-to-back tomorrow in Orlando against the Magic. Tip-off at 4. Chris Burkhardt will have Blazers game day at 2 on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Elsewhere, Jimmy Butler played last night, is now going to be suspended again by the Heat for 2 games. He missed a team flight. Championship Sunday at noon on Fox. The Commanders are at the Eagles. Philly is favored by 6. Bills at the Chiefs at 3:30 on CBS. KC playing in their 7th straight AFC title game. Kansas City favored by 2. Ben Johnson introduces Bears' new coach. The Jets are hiring Aaron Glenn. Dan Campbell will need to replace both coordinators. We'll go to Kansas City and focus on the AFC title game at 4:20 with Todd Lebo. I love. And someday you'll pay the price, I know. It happens all the time. You leave the world behind. It's a great song. But someday you'll pay. And just once in my life, I wish I could sing and just belt out a great song. I got caught in a moment today where I was listening to Hall & Oates, and I was trying to sing, and I was like, man, I'm terrible. It was really bad. Oh, Kiss is on my list. I was singing that, doing my best, and it was just an awful experience. But that'll happen. And then sometimes my dog, Puppy Shots, will look at me like, what are you doing, man? He gives me the head tilt. Yeah, it's a great song. This is one of those songs where I think Daryl Hall, when he wrote the song, he said it came easy. Like most of the hits do when you hear from the band members. It's like, yeah, that was about a 10-minute process. How can you take 10 minutes and create a masterpiece like this? Say. I mean, there was a moment in the 80s where everything that this band put out, Hall & Oates, it was nothing but straight cash. I remember the first time I heard Out of Touch, I was like, whoa. I didn't know what was going on, but I know I needed a lot more of that in my life. This is back when you relied on the radio to deliver you the new music. And I had this sweet stereo set up in my room. And I would steal tapes from my mom and put tape over the corners so I could record over her stuff to get my stuff. I love this song. I love Daryl Hall. Because your kiss. When I interviewed him, he gave me like 20 minutes. I'm thinking, Daryl, there's nothing you needed to do to make me love you anymore, and yet you found a way to accomplish that. The best things in life. It's really too bad that his relationship with Oates went south. I don't like that. He probably got tired of carrying Oates around for decades and was like, I'm done with you. I like John, though. He was nice. He gave me 20 minutes as well. That was a dream come true. I got to talk to both of them. I don't think my kiss is on anyone's list right now. Let's just put it that way. Nice work, Daryl. All right, a lot of things to get to. Todd Lebo from WHB in Kansas City is going to join us. He's getting used to this. I joke with Todd all the time, like, well, I'll talk to you next year right around AFC title time because the Chiefs are there every year. It's unbelievable. You know, Patrick Mahomes, I'm not joking when I say this, but he's already the best quarterback I've ever seen play. And that's saying a lot. I'm an Elway guy. And I respect Tom Brady and Joe Montana. But Patrick Mahomes is the best I've seen, I believe. He's like a black John Elway. He's great. Arm strength, mobility, leadership. The only knock on him is he's got a weird voice. He sounds strange. That's about it. But he's a good decision maker. He was very fortunate to wind up with Andy Reid. They were patient in their development with him. And now he's just a master. He is a master. And when you've got that position figured out and you've got a great head coach, they've got the best quarterback and the best coach. Why would I bet against that? Why? Why would you bet against that? Now, they're not as explosive this year with their offense, but I can tell you one thing, they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot with a big mistake. They're going to execute, and the Bills are going to have to play flawless football to be able to win. Even when the Bills have played flawless football against the Chiefs, they still lose. So I'm anxious to see how the game plays out. I guess my only question mark with Kansas City is that if it becomes a higher scoring game, because the Bills have some firepower as well, will they be able to score enough? But it probably won't be. It'll probably be a game in the 20s. It's going to be a highly contested football game, and it's going to come down to those 3, 4 to 5 plays that will determine the outcome. But this is the advantage that Kansas City has. One, Andy Reid bringing in Steve Spagnuolo. Spagnuolo has been a head coach before. He's probably not going to go anywhere. So Andy Reid's got this synergy with the coaching staff. And you know Andy Reid's going to devise a good game plan, and his guys are going to execute in the clutch. But Spagnuolo, I mean, we saw it last week. His ability to dial up pressure, he made life very difficult on C.J. Stroud. Very difficult. But I think the Chiefs' defense and the timely playmaking from Patrick Mahomes will be the difference. That's how I see it going down. On paper, this is the best opportunity for Buffalo to get over in this spot. It's the best opportunity for him. But I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead with Andy Reid. So it's going to be a great football game. Like I said, we got to sit back. We have to appreciate and take the time to appreciate these moments because we're watching one of the all-timers right here. And Josh Allen's the same way. You know, Josh Allen, what a great character guy he is. He's terrific. Alex Brink was telling me on Monday that I forgot the guy's name, but there was somebody that went back and did a revised look at his stats in college at Wyoming. The big question mark on Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming was accuracy issues. He did not complete a high percentage of balls in college. Well, what this coach did was went back and looked at every play, every single play, and grade Allen based on his decision-making, how many balls were dropped, how many receivers ran the wrong route. And I think the revised completion percentage was like 76%, meaning he was playing at a place that had a lack of talent around him. And that's not to knock on any of those guys, but when you're playing at Wyoming, you don't exactly have the Ohio State Buckeyes wide receiving core. So you're having to elevate and lift and carry some of those guys. So that's going to result in poor route running, drop footballs, poor pass protection, things that put undue stress on the quarterback. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that Josh Allen's terrific. And I think for a quarterback, his personality, his demeanor, the way he carries himself, it's a perfect match for Buffalo. He has been embraced by the Bills Mafia. He understands the town, the culture, the whole deal. He's perfect for that team. And I like him because he's tough. He doesn't make excuses. And in terms of talent, the size, the speed, his mobility, and his arm strength are unmatched. The guy's got a legitimate cannon in his right arm. So he's going to be tough. He is awesome. He's a great player. Great, great player. And these are the two best quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's another reason why you need to watch it. Right now, who are the best quarterbacks? So Mahomes, Allen, Joe Burrow, and who after that? Probably Lamar. So you have two of the four best quarterbacks in the NFL going head-to-head on Sunday for the rights to go to the Super Bowl. It's like the 49ers and Cowboys. It's some of the great matchups we've seen in the past, and these are the two elite teams right now. And what I love about this is the fact that for Josh Allen to get to where he wants to be, he has to go through the best. There's no easy pathway. There's no easy way around it. You've got to go through Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead to get to where you want to be. And for Buffalo, I was alive and around for all four of their Super Bowl losses in consecutive years. Great, great teams with a ton of Hall of Famers, and they couldn't get over the hump. They couldn't win the big one. All it takes is one. And if Josh Allen gets it done, he'll become an instant legend. And all of the pain of the Bills fans that are around for the teams in the early 90s that lost 4 straight Super Bowls, it'll all be forgotten and forgiven. One championship changes everything. And the good thing is for teams, once you get over the hump and you win it once, and you know what it takes to get there and do it again, you've got a better chance to be back in that type of position. But that's why you have to enjoy it. The two best quarterbacks, two of the best teams, whoever wins the game is probably going to win the championship. And this won't be the last time we see it. It's basically Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. That's what it is. But right now, all of the playoff success belongs to Patrick Mahomes. It's one-sided. The Bills have had great success against the Chiefs in the regular season, but it doesn't matter. No one cares about that. They care about right now. How do you do in the postseason? How do you do in the big moments? That's how quarterbacks are judged. You know, Peyton Manning, early in his career, before the later success in the postseason with Denver, he was not a good playoff quarterback. A lot of troubling losses. But as time went on, he started to get an edge in AFC title games over Brady, got a second Super Bowl, so the numbers look different. But for Josh Allen right now, no one cares what you do in the regular season. It's all about this game right now. Can you get over on Patrick Mahomes? Can you get through the best? It reminds me of some of the old school NBA days, like in the 80s, where you had the Lakers and Celtics. You had to get through the other team to get to where you want to be. So we'll see. You know, I guess with the Chiefs, you know, I grew up hating the Raiders because they were arch rivals of the Denver Broncos. And then you had the whole mess between Al Davis and Mike Shanahan and the way that Al ripped off Mike and never paid him the money they owed him. So Shanahan promptly made him pay the price when he took over as Broncos head coach. I think in his time with Denver, he went 16-5 against the Raiders, all because he was pissed off and wanted Al to pay for not paying him the money he owed him because he fired him as head coach. Shanahan's first head coaching job was with the Raiders when they were in Los Angeles. So I always hated the Raiders. They're a clown show of an organization. They've been crap for years, and I like that. But with Kansas City, it's different. I just respect them because they have a good ownership group. It's been a well-run organization for years. And even back in the day when the Chiefs had Marty Schottenheimer and were right there knocking on the door to win a championship, I had respect for them because Marty was a very respectable coach. They played hard. They were a good football game. They were fundamentally sound, and they had a lot of great players. Derek Thomas, one of the best. Neil Smith, Mark McMillan. You can go down the line. They had a lot of great players. I just respected the way they went about their business, unlike the Raiders. So I don't necessarily hate the Chiefs. I just have respect for them. And good organizations find ways to make good decisions to put themselves in a position to win, and the Chiefs have done that. They hired Andy Reid after he left Philly. Alex Smith, Andy Reid was able to win with him, and then they set their sights on Patrick Mahomes, and they did whatever it took to get him in the draft. And the rest is history. And now they're on a mission to not just be a great team, but to go down as the best team of all time. You win 3 in a row, and all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes has got something that Tom Brady doesn't. And that's what he's chasing right now, Tom Brady and his 7 championships. All right, we'll head to Kansas City next. Todd Lebo will give us the latest on the Chiefs' week of preparation and what the keys are going to be in this AFC title game on Sunday. And then Michael Holton's going to swing by in studio at 5:20. All right, very happy to welcome back to the show for our annual football discussions from 810 WHB in Kansas City. Todd Lebo's back. Hey, Todd, here's the first question I have for you. Kansas City's got the best coach and the best quarterback in the game, and yet the majority of people feel like this year the Bills have the best chance to upset them. So why is that? What do the Bills have this year that would give them a better chance to get over on Kansas City?
I think probably just the fact that it can't go like this forever eventually. I mean, this is the fourth time these two teams with these coaches and these quarterbacks, not everything's the same, and that they've met in the postseason, and they've been some really good games. The game last year in Buffalo was excellent. The 13-second game in Kansas City a few years ago was the greatest sporting event I think I was ever at in my life. It was nuts. And the game they had in the 2000 AFC Championship game was a fine game. It wasn't all that close, but eventually, I mean, Buffalo has proven they can beat the Chiefs. They've done it multiple times in the regular season. Eventually, I think people think, well, yeah, you're going to have to win at some point. So why not this year? Now the tough part's going to be they got to do it on the road, and that's not easy to do. But we'll see. I mean, listen, Josh Allen has not been the reason the Bills have lost these games. I think his coach has not helped him a couple of times, especially that 13-second game. If he just would have kicked the ball off instead of made the Chiefs waste a few seconds, might have won that one. I mean, who knows? But maybe this is time that Sean McDermott's been through this enough he can finally get it done as well.
I wanted to ask you about Steve Spagnuolo. I love the synergy between Reed and his coaching staff. I think it's tremendous. But Spags appears to be getting better year by year in Kansas City, and I thought the way he was able to dial up pressure on C.J. Stroud last weekend was tremendous. What's been the key to Spags' success year by year with the Chiefs?
I would put hiring Steve Spagnuolo as one of the top 5 things that this Chiefs franchise has done. Drafting Patrick Mahomes, hiring Andy Reid number 1, then Patrick Mahomes number 2, and Spags is probably right up there because in 2018 they made the title game and they lost. The defense wasn't good enough, so they fired Bob Sutton. Andy Reid doesn't fire coaches a lot. He fired Bob Sutton and he hired Steve Spagnuolo, who was out of football for a year. And it's been all the difference. All they've done is go to the Super Bowl or lose in overtime in the championship game since he's been hired. It's been pretty amazing. And he just keeps finding ways. Patrick Mahomes told us today, like, he's always excited when camp is over because he doesn't have to face Spags defenses anymore because he knows that makes it good. He's ready. He's ready for the regular season because he's gotten through it. So, he's been great. He really has. And, there's talk that maybe he could be a head coach at some point again. I don't know if people are out to hire 60-year-old defensive coaches in the league from what I see going around. But I think the Chiefs should pay him whatever to hang around and keep dialing up what he does.
So can we expect him to continue to dial up pressure and, blitz Josh Allen this weekend?
I think they'll blitz some, but they'll also probably shadow some. They need to get to him at some point. They did not sack him in this game this year. And I don't think they sacked him in the divisional round last year either. They won that game. But the key to this game is going to be trying to contain Allen. Don't let him run for like 70 yards. Keep him out of 3rd and 2 because if you get to 3rd and 2, they're just going to run the ball twice. So they need to do that, and they need to find a way to get a turnover. The Bills have the best turnover ratio in the league by far, and it's not just that they have a lot of turnovers. And, whatever. They're second most in turnovers they've gotten and second best in turnovers they've given up. That's why they're so much better than everyone else. So they got to find a way to turn them over. They've only got 9 turnovers all year. The Chiefs did turn them over 1 time in the game they played up there, but Chiefs turned it over 2 times. None of these teams, the 4 remaining teams in the AFC Championship and NFC Championship game, have turned the ball over in the postseason. So it's pretty simple. If you can play smart, good, clean football, you have a chance to win. The question is, what happens when neither team turns it over? Who's going to win that game?
That's a great question. I can't wait to find out. Now, just so you know, going into this question, I do not believe the Chiefs are lucky. I think they win, and they win consistently because they're well coached and they execute in the biggest moments, and they play great situational football. There are a lot of football fans that I think are probably tired of the Chiefs dominating a league that's supposed to be really hard, and they make it look easy. So they point to the officiating and how the Chiefs get, quote, beneficial calls. I'll ask you, because you watch every game and you're around that team, do you think they get preferential treatment from the officiating crews?
I don't think they get preferential treatment any more than any. I think most people would tell you that they don't like the way quarterbacks get treated anymore. You know, there were 2 calls in the game against Houston. One was a roughing the passer, and one was an unnecessary roughness. That I think any team would like their quarterback to get those calls. But when you looked at them both in slow-mo after they happened, you're like, I don't think that should have been a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, that's tough to do. There was the play in the fourth quarter of the game where Patrick tried to flop. Well, he didn't get the call. You know, so you don't get all the calls. But we're all we would all like to see quarterbacks have to, you know, tough it out a little bit more because they are a little sensitive. We've seen some really bad roughing the passer calls the past few years, and I know they're doing it for safety, blah, 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 all that stuff. But it doesn't feel to me like the Chiefs get any more favorable whistle than anyone else does. I get how people would get that because they win, and they're on TV all the time. Whether you want to watch them or not, they're on Sunday Night Football or Thursday Night Football or Monday Night Football or standalone games on Amazon Prime or Netflix. I mean, they're forced down your throat the same way that like maybe LeBron James was forever or Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So I think familiarity breeds contempt. And I definitely get the feeling that everyone else is sick of the Chiefs. There's no question about that.
Hey, wait a second. Did you get a picture of Caitlin Clark for your daughter during the game or before the game?
I did not see Caitlin Clark, but I did see Taylor Swift before the game. I was down in the tunnel. I think Caitlin Clark came in like regular folks. She just came in the regular things. We wait in the players' tunnel to get Taylor Swift, and I actually got a little video of an interaction between Taylor Swift and Joe Buck in the hallway down there. And everyone in Kansas City hates Joe Buck because Joe Buck happened to be the announcer in Game 7 of the World Series in 2014 when Madison Bumgarner came in and threw 5 innings of no hit, no run relief, and everybody hates him because all he did was say nice things about Madison Bumgarner, which he should have. But everyone loves Taylor Swift, so it was like it was the enemy and everyone's friend talking to each other. I thought that was a fun video.
No, that's pretty awesome, man. I love seeing that. You know what's funny? I used to work in San Francisco, and I did for a few years. I was down there during that championship. You know what's weird? Every Giant fan hates Joe Buck, too. Shacker, why do people in San Francisco hate Joe Buck so much? What's up with that?
Because it always seems like he favors the other team.
See, it's the same thing no matter where he's at, Todd.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you live, you hate him. I mean, every city, because once again, familiarity breeds contempt. He has been doing your game, whether it's Major League Baseball or professional football, for 25 years or whatever it is, and so you've just had enough of him because you can't win all the games, And so sometimes you're going to listen, you're going, I don't like what he said. So, that's just the way it works. And I guess he's handsomely paid to have everyone hate him.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think he and Aikman are a terrific crew for Monday Night Football. And didn't I see where I think that game, Kansas City and Houston, was that the highest rated NFL game on ESPN of all time?
That's what they said, like 33 million or something. But, the numbers for the weekend were kind of down.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that only 40 million people watched the Bills and Ravens. I thought it would be more than that. But I do think people watch the Chiefs. Like I think the numbers will be crazy for this game on Sunday. Now, if the game is not great, they won't be as crazy. But if the game is great and the Chiefs have a chance to lose, that is the recipe for the most number of viewers because people will love to watch the Chiefs lose this game at home.
There's no question. We're talking with Todd Lebo, WHB down in Kansas City. All right, so I want to talk to you about the Bills in terms of what a concern might be for Kansas City through what I've seen with them over the last couple of years, and especially this year. And I think last week was a great example against Buffalo. Josh Allen only threw it for like 120 yards. They ran it for about 140. They didn't make any big mistakes. It looks like they finally found a balance to where they've got more playmakers around Josh, where they're running the football. They're not asking Allen to do everything, and maybe that makes him a little more difficult to defend. What are you seeing from the Bills' offense in that transformation with not asking Josh to do everything that might make them more of a difficult task to defend coming up on Sunday?
Yeah, they've done a really good job. It's kind of like the Chiefs a couple years ago. When they said goodbye to Tyreek Hill, they had to redo it with some guys who weren't the big stars. So they were like, all right, Stephon Diggs, we don't need you anymore. You're gone. And, Gabe Davis was a really good player for them who had 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in that 13-second game. He's gone. So they're just like, all right, we got some new guys around. James Cook's a really good player. Their tight ends are like workmanlike.
Yeah.
And Josh just kind of spreads it around a little bit. These aren't listen, you take Josh Allen on your fantasy team because he scores touchdowns himself, but he's not throwing the ball as much as everyone else is. And Patrick Mahomes has probably not been a top fantasy quarterback for the last 2 or 3 years because they're just playing a different kind of style of football. So both of these teams need to get a lot of credit for having quarterbacks who make a lot of money on second contracts, and they're in this title game. You know, the recipe is have your cheap quarterback like Washington does right now and, you know, make your run for a while, or like Brock Purdy for a couple of years with the 49ers. Well, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are expensive, and everything revolves around them, but they've been managed to plug and play with different players and make this thing work. So both organizations deserve a lot of credit for finding the right people to be around them. And Allen is a game wrecker. He's hard to tackle. He's bigger than a lot of the guys who try to tackle him. And that'll be a key for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs just, you know, the heartening part, I suppose, for Chiefs fans is, you know, it was a drop 2-point conversion to avoid overtime or possible overtime, because I still think that the Bills would have gone down and had a kick. They had a minute and a half to go. Had Mark Andrews caught that ball. But that was a +3 game in turnovers for the Bills, and they only won by 2 points. So that, because I think the Ravens were probably a more dangerous team to face the Chiefs because their defense is a little bit better, I think, than the Bills right now, because the Bills have some injuries. So Chiefs fans should be like, all right, well, maybe if the Bills only beat the Ravens by 2 when they were +3 in turnovers, and one of them was a monster where they got a short field on the fumble.
Yeah.
And then that should make you happy. But, the Chiefs have not turned the ball over for 8 straight games. The last time they had a turnover was the game in Buffalo. They turned it over twice. They lost that game. Something's got to give. I don't think you go on 9-game streaks with 2 of them being in the playoffs and don't turn the ball over. But we'll see. That will be the things that you watch. But Allen has done a great job of not turning the ball over himself. You got to turn him over. You got to turn Mahomes over. That's going to be the key to this game.
All right, I've got 2 more questions for you. Travis Kelce, my dad can't figure out why Kelce is always wide open. And I want to ask you this. What's been the key for him? Was it the extra rest with the bye? We saw it last year. We're seeing it again this year. He's elevated his game, but he was tremendous in that game against Houston. What's his key to success come this time of year?
Well, he does keep himself in great shape, and he works really hard. And they're smart with him. He didn't play in the last game of the year. They had the bye week. All that stuff's been good for him. But I think, it was so weird. Hollywood Brown had no catches. DeAndre Hopkins had no catches. And they had precious few targets. And Patrick told us today and after the game, listen, you go back and look at the tape, they were taking those guys away. So what happens? The Hall of Famer's wide open in the middle of the field. I guess they figure it's easier to catch the 35-year-old because he should have scored. Old Travis would have scored on the one play where he's running free, but he's not good enough to do that anymore because he's lost a step for sure. So I guess they figure might as well take our medicine and let him catch the ball in the middle of the field because he's not going to break one all the way on you.
Yeah.
But I think that will be the cat and mouse game. Will Buffalo be a little bit better with their linebackers? I know Matt Milano, I don't think was in the last game they played. He was coming early. If he was back, he was his first game back. He's a good coverage linebacker. If he's there, maybe that opens up things on the outside and things change and you get those kind of plays that you're used to seeing. I saw like a 10-minute highlight package of the game they played in the playoffs in 2021, whatever that 13-second game was. And the speed that game was played is way different on both sides than these teams play anymore. Tyreek Hill was unbelievable that day, and he's now older and not a Chief. Gabe Davis, as I said, was unbelievable that day. It's just a different look.
Yeah.
But they're still thrilling games. I don't think we're going to get whatever that score was, 40-something to 30-something game.
That Tyreek Hill touchdown where he flashed the deuces as he's running by guys was just truly incredible. I can't believe it. I was talking with Alex Brink, who is a former college quarterback. He's a quarterback guru that works with guys now in the NFL. And he was telling me that Travis Kelce, he thinks that him being a former quarterback really helps him in terms of seeing the field the right way to where he and Mahomes have that connection. Has he ever talked about that being a help to him?
Yeah, he's absolutely talked about that. That he knows what he wanted people to run routes like, and he and Patrick have worked so long together. They very seldom do you see a ball get thrown and they're like, wait a second, I thought you were turning left. You know what I mean? But yeah, Travis played a lot of quarterback. He played a little bit in college. They moved him to tight end when he was after there for a couple of years, but he played a lot in high school. And you're just kind of used to how guys where you want them to be. And he's played for so long, and he's a blessed guy because He basically played with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. You
Huh.
play in the league for 13 years, you're probably going to play with 3 or 4 or 5 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
This guy's played with 2 guys. And so you get your rhythm going with those guys. He was great with Alex Smith. He helped Alex Smith lead the league in quarterback rating one year. You know, I mean, they were good. But he and Mahomes are on a page where, and sometimes Travis says this all the time, like he runs the wrong route, but Patrick knows that he's going to run the wrong route because he just knows him. So, like, you know, it's normally if someone runs the wrong route, the quarterback will be like, this guy ran the wrong route. Well, he's like, Patrick's like, well, I knew he was going to run the wrong route, so I threw it where I knew he was going to be.
That's
so
awesome.
that is, you don't see that around the league very often.
Hey, Todd, assuming that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest Chief of all time, who would be second on that Mount Rushmore? Is it Derek Thomas? Would it be Tony Gonzalez? Or would it be Travis Kelce or somebody else?
Well, you know, they got a big Hall of Honor there. Lynn Dawson is an older, you know, he was the guy who put the first Super Bowl on the deal. So that's great. People who are like my age, I mean, Derek Thomas, multiple Pro Bowls and a Hall of Famer. But I think probably that Bobby Bell, who is still alive, he's over 80 years old, and was a linebacker for those teams in the 60s and would be an absolute game wrecker in today's world. Maybe the best all-around player besides Patrick Mahomes. That's just me. I'm giving you a name that most people wouldn't say.
All right. Well, do you think the Chiefs are going to win? How do you see it playing out? I like the Chiefs. Who do you like?
I mean, it's hard. I won't pick against them because they win these games. Now,
Yeah, they got the best coach and best quarterback, too.
I'll remind people of this. Even Patrick Mahomes has lost 2 AFC championship games at home. Because he lost to the Patriots in 18 and they lost to the Bengals in 21.
Yeah.
They were both in overtime, whatever, but they lost. Okay, so he is fallible. He can lose at home. So I think they will win the game, but I think it's going to be really close. And the only way it's not close if the Chiefs are like +3 in turnovers. If they're minus in turnovers, it's going to be everything they have to win this game.
Wow.
But listen, I honestly, if the Bills win, I will be really happy for Josh Allen because he's the kind of guy who, like, I think deserves to get to go to Super Bowl sometime because he's been great. Go look at his playoff numbers in the games against the Chiefs. He's been outstanding.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been quite good enough. You know, and there's nothing wrong with being the second best quarterback. But what you don't want to, which is what, you know, Peyton Manning always had the best stats.
Yeah.
Way better than Tom Brady. He just couldn't win.
Yeah.
But in the end, he ended up winning 3 of the 5
3-1
games
against
they
him in
played
AFC
each other.
title games. Yeah.
Yeah, so he did better against him there, but Josh needs to get one of these. He
does.
absolutely needs to. It's going to be a hard task, but it's going to be fun, and I can't wait for it.
Well, I hope we see Caitlin Clark at the AFC title game as well. I did see a picture of her when she was younger wearing Chief gear, so she's not on the bandwagon. I think she's been a Chief fan for a while, so that's pretty cool, too.
Yeah, I've heard her talk about it. Her older brother loved Tony Gonzalez, you know, so she's from Iowa. If you're from Iowa, you choose between Vikings, Bears, and Chiefs, really. In baseball, there's lots more choices because people like the Cardinals and all that, but there's no St. Louis team anymore. But, yeah, she comes by it naturally. There's a lot of Chiefs fans in Des Moines in that area where she's from, no question.
All right. Todd Lebo, Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, dude. You're awesome, man. I love talking ball with you. Have fun this weekend, and we'll see how things shake out. What a game. You know what this is to me? It's like the 49ers and Cowboys from like the early 90s. That's how big this rivalry is now. It's awesome.
Absolutely. It's so much fun. And, you know, sometimes I get kind of like, oh, yeah, we're having another AFC championship game here.
Yeah,
but I should remember all
dude.
the years we worked without that. So
No,
can't take
enjoy
for
it.
granted. It's be fun.
Dude,
Yeah.
for work-wise in our business, like you're riding the wave of greatness right now. It won't last forever, but, man, it's like what a blessing, man. It's awesome. Jeez.
No, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And if I get stuck going to the Super Bowl again, you'd call me that week.
All right, you're in, man. I guarantee you it will happen. I appreciate you, Todd.
All right. Anytime, Jay.
There you go. Todd Lebo. I think it's cool. It was cool to see Caitlin Clark. Like the 2 most popular females in the planet in the same box. Taylor Swift and Caitlin Clark just chilling. Greatness, appreciating greatness. Although Shaq would argue that Taylor Swift's not greatness. Oh, yeah, because you don't think she's that hot. Is that what you told me?
Yeah. She's not.
I know, but she's not unattractive either, though.
Okay, you are correct there, but she's not the hottest woman in the world.
No, I never said that. But I don't mind looking at her. Like she's easy on the eyes, but not the hottest.
Well, she's also a billionaire.
That's true.
That helps.
and Caitlin Clark well on her way. All right, big thanks to Todd Lebo. I love talking ball with him. I got confirmation from Mr. Holton that he'll be joining us in studio at 5:20. And don't forget, 2 early Blazer games back-to-back days tomorrow and Friday. Here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, I'm breathing heavy right now. I worked out earlier today, and I just ran full speed down the hallway because I was screwing around during the commercial break. Our promotions director, Susan, has a new puppy. His name is Joey, and I went back there to go visit with Joey, and we're best friends already. I think he could smell puppy shots on me, but what a cute little thing this is.
Named after our famous Joey?
I don't know. I didn't ask her that.
So Joey Harrington?
I thought about asking Susan if I could bring him down to the studio and hang out with you and I for the next 10 minutes. You should have brought Dino today. No, Dino. Dino! I love getting your dog to howl at me the way he does at you. He's a good
He
one.
sleeps really hard 3 to 6 when Rip City Drive's going.
That's
his
because my
prime
show
time
is
nap
boring. Yeah. If you want to put your dog to sleep, just turn on my show. Guaranteed to work every time. It works with Dino, but yeah, that was nice. Susan working with Joey. All right. Michael Holton going to join us in studio at 5:20. A lot of things to talk with him about. I want to get his take on Scoot Henderson and what he's seen over the last 5 games. I guess what I'm trying to say with Scoot, his last 5 have been great. I don't think this is one of those little blips where we're going to see him fall off a cliff. I think this is the beginning of his emergence as a legit NBA player. The game's slowing down for him. He's playing with more confidence. And look, say what you want about Chauncey Billups. This is going to be his final year in Portland. So I understand there are people frustrated with the situation, but look at the young guys who are developing. Klingon, check. Shaden Sharp, Tumani, Scoot, Denny Avdia. That's a good thing. And, Coach Billups and his staff deserve some credit for that, but I really like the way Scoot's playing. Most importantly, the decision-making, getting a chance to showcase the athleticism. He's shooting the ball better. He even did a good job of showing patience in his handling of the Miami zone defense. So we'll talk with Holton about Scoot. I also want to get his take on Shaden Sharp's response to the way that he's handled being benched by Coach Billups. And Holton made a good point, is that these type of decisions, when you choose to bench someone for, in this case, poor defensive play, it's not a surprise, meaning there are multiple conversations about the problem that lead up to the decision. So I'm sure Shaden Sharp wasn't caught off guard, because what happens is it's not just what the coaches are seeing in games, but there's probably been a regression in practice. And what you're seeing in practice, what you're seeing around the guys, and then what you're seeing in the games. And so sometimes you got to bench a player to get their attention. And what I like about Coach Billups is that he believes in Sharp, and he thinks Sharp has a chance to be great. And he definitely has the skill set for it, but you got to pay attention to detail. And he doesn't want Sharp to be one of those guys that's just an offensive player, but a liability on defense. And young players need discipline. They need a coach that will sit their butt on the bench if need be, to continue to push them in the direction they need, to be challenged and to get better, to show improvement. That's what it's all about. So I like that. And we'll get his take on Denny Avdia. Holton, like myself, huge fans of Denny and the way he's playing right now and what he's brought to this team, his leadership, his toughness, his willingness to push the tempo. I mean, we saw a couple of games when he was out recently. There's a lot of their attack on both ends that falls apart because they don't have Avdia out there. He's been great. I was excited about the move when they got him, but really love him, the player, his game, his leadership, what he brings to the rest of his teammates in the locker room. And he's just been a pleasant find, much so. And Klingon will be back soon. We talked to Sean Highkin earlier. That's not going to be a long-term deal, but we should feel good about that. But Patrick Mahomes, I get a request for this almost every day. The only bad thing you say about Mahomes is that he sounds weird. That's all. Yeah, he sounds weird. He really does. That's the only bad thing I say about Mahomes. I knew he was going to be great in his first year as a starter. I went back to Denver. It was a Monday night football game. And it was pretty sweet because I got to hang out in the Bronco players' parking lot before the game. The cheerleaders came by, got to see some of the players. I think I saw Philip Lindsay at the time pull up in a Saab or something. He was a rookie, so you could tell that, maybe the funds hadn't quite hit his bank account yet. But we went into the game, and it was a chance to see Patrick Mahomes. And this is early in the season. And the Broncos built a 23-13 lead in the fourth quarter. And then Patrick Mahomes led them on 2 touchdown drives and game over 27-23. But he had a ridiculous left-handed pass for a first down in that game to Tyreek Hill. And he was great. And from the moment I saw that game, I was like, well, the Broncos are in trouble, as is the rest of the AFC West and the entire conference. And he's been great ever since. He has never not been in an AFC title game since the start of his career in Kansas City. Like, how's that even possible? Whatever. They're great, and I can't wait for this game on Sunday. And I agree with Todd. I love Josh Allen. Great player. Great player. But it'll probably come down to turnovers. You look at Baltimore, 3 turnovers. Bills had none. They lose the game. Now, Detroit, turnover issues against Washington, lose the game. In these big games, in these big moments, the turnover department is critical. You turn it over multiple times, and you're going to lose. It's that simple. You can't cough it up against good teams because good teams make you pay. But the interesting part here is that I don't think the Bills are going to be able to run the football against the Chiefs with the same type of effectiveness that we saw against the Ravens. I was impressed with their offensive line play. I thought, the Ravens are a physical team, but for the Bills to go out there with the mindset to run the football and create balance was great. The big challenge for playing in Kansas City is just the crowd noise and what type of impact that's going to have at the line of scrimmage with communication. But the Bills are not a young team. They've been there and done that, so they should be well prepared for it. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Rip City Drive. Michael Holton coming up at 5:20. He'll join me in studio. All right, we start with the NFL. Championship Sunday is set. 2 games at noon on Fox. The Commanders are at the Eagles. Philadelphia, a 6-point favorite. At 3:30 on CBS, AFC Championship game, Bills at the Chiefs. 4th time that they have met in the postseason with Mahomes and Allen. Kansas City in their 7th straight AFC title game. The Chiefs favored by 2. Ben Johnson introduces the Bears' new coach. The Jets are hiring Aaron Glenn, so Dan Campbell will need to replace both coordinators with the Lions. Trailblazers have won back-to-back games. They topped Miami last night. All 5 starters in double figures. Portland will play the first of back-to-back games tomorrow night in Orlando. Tip at 4. Chris Burkhardt will have Blazers game day at 2. Here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Jimmy Butler being suspended again by the Miami Heat. The first time, conduct detrimental to the team. This time he missed a flight. Michael Holton going to join me in studio 520 to talk some hoop. All right, Michael Shacker bumping a little House of Pain. This song does not remind me of Wisconsin as much as it does Happy Gilmore. And Shacker said this song's also in Miss Doubtfire, which is a great film. Jump around. All right, you can hit me up on social media. You'll find me there at Chad and Rip City. Jump. You can also reach out and jump on board 503-248-0620. That's your telephone number. The lactic acid is starting to build up for my workout, so I'm moving very slow right now. Quite fatigued. It was a great workout today. Shacker also informed me that we're going to have 8 more days of sunshine. I am loving this January weather we're getting right now.
Yeah, but it's going to be 30 degrees every day.
That's right. We got the frost advisory or whatever that is. I don't care. I can handle the cold, but if we see blue skies and sun, I'm all about that. You know, Shacker and I have a friend that we've worked with in the business who's now living in Denver. Same thing. They've had some snow and stuff recently, but they get 300 days of sunshine a year. Love the blue skies. So it's very nice. Very nice. Golf season right around the corner. We are now in the best time of the year. The days will start getting longer and longer, and that's very good. That makes the Chad very happy. So Championship Sunday coming up this weekend. A couple of things here from the NFL. Ben Johnson has been hired by the Bears to be their head coach, and Aaron Glenn will take over the Jets, Jets. And Trent Baalke is no longer with the Jags. I think the hire of Ben Johnson was a great move by Chicago. The reason why is simple, right? They have a young quarterback, Caleb Williams, who is coming off a rough season, a season of transition where they started the season with the Eberflus. He was fired after a debacle on Thanksgiving Day, and the season ended in disaster. So it's important for them, most important, to focus on Caleb Williams and get him on track so he can become the quarterback that we think he's supposed to be. He's got all the talent in the world. And now he's got a chance to develop a relationship with a young offensive mind. And if everything goes well for the next decade, coach and quarterback figured out in Chicago. The problem is anytime you hire a young offensive mind or a coordinator with no experience, the question is, can they become a great head coach? Yeah, Ben Johnson knows how to draw up plays and scheme an offense, but that's different than being a leader of men. Can you build a culture? Can you create that respect between yourself and the players in the locker room? Can you have the spine, the intestinal fortitude to deal with the front office when they're trying to encourage you to do something that may not be the best interest of the team? There's so many things that go into it. And some guys figure it out quick. Some guys never do, and they end up becoming coordinators again, like Cliff Kingsbury. And there's nothing wrong with just being a great coordinator. It's got to be quite intoxicating to be able to step in and have a chance to do it the way you want to do it. Now, one advantage for Ben Johnson, the situation he's taken over in Chicago is very similar to the situation that Dan Campbell took over in Detroit. Bad franchise, a history of losing. The Bears, we all remember the 85 Super Bowl team, but since then they've been remarkably bad and a lot of dysfunction in the front office. And they have never been able to figure out the quarterback situation, ever. And Caleb Williams is that chance to finally figure it out. And if you do, you're going to be fine. But for the Bears, very similar to Detroit's situation, meaning a history of losing, dysfunction, but now Ben Johnson coming out of that situation in Detroit, probably learned a thing or two from Dan Campbell on how to build a culture, how to lay a foundation, how to get everyone on the same page, how to move a franchise in the right direction. And I think that's got to help him because the situations are similar. And so we'll see if he's able to master that. But it was probably the best hire they could make based on their quarterback and what you need to create there between coach and quarterback. And once you get coach and quarterback figured out, then everything becomes easier. The Broncos had Sean Payton. They got Bo Nix. He had a great rookie season. The Commanders, new ownership group, new coaching staff. Cliff Kingsbury hired offensive guru to work with Jaden Daniels. And now they're one win away from getting to the Super Bowl. Once you get coach and quarterback figured out, you're good. Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love in Green Bay. That's what you want. That's what you're searching for. Once you get that figured out, then everything becomes easier. Like, look at the Broncos. As a Bronco fan, for the last decade, how long is the trust going to be in charge? When are they going to get new ownership? Who's the head coach going to be? And when are they going to find a quarterback? This is the first offseason in years where they don't have to worry about any of that. They have their coach, they have their quarterback, and they have the richest ownership group in the NFL. So now you go about starting to add pieces around the quarterback to make the team better. That's what it comes down to. Look at Houston. They were a complete and utter mess. They hired DeMeco Ryans, they drafted C.J. Stroud, and now they're one of the best teams in the NFL. Look at the Jets for years. No quarterback, can't figure out the coach, ownership group's a mess, and they suck. The Cleveland Browns, horrible owners, no quarterback, disaster. I like what the Bears did. So we'll find out from Ben Johnson. I like him. Great offensive mind. I hope that he's able to handle this challenge and responsibility and build the culture he wants and get this team on the right track. It would be fun to see Chicago actually be a legit contender once again. It's been a long time. 85 was their last Super Bowl. 85. And they did make it to an NFC title game with Jay Cutler, but they got worked by Green Bay. They got to a Super Bowl with, who was that dude from Florida when Lovie Smith was coach? Rex Grossman. And they lost to Indianapolis. So they've had some success over the last 30-plus years. Some, 40-plus years, but not a lot. For the Jets, Aaron Glenn, massive respect for him. Guy's tough. Players will play hard for him. He's got a lot of experience. Did a heck of a job with the defense issue in Detroit when he faced all the injuries. But he's in a similar spot where he's good. And I think he's going to be able to build a culture based on his character and what he's about. But the question is, can he overcome the dysfunction above him to get that team on the right track? And what do you do with Aaron Rodgers? My guess is they'll move on from Rodgers. Rodgers! That's my guess. And look to draft a young quarterback. That's probably the direction they'll go. And then we got to figure out where Aaron Rodgers is going to end up because he's not going to retire. He's going to play again. I don't doubt that at all. And then for the Jags, who cares? They're a disaster. I don't know why they were holding on to Balky to begin with. Cohen decided not to take the job. It's a bizarre situation. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's got the potential to be great, but yet he's taken a step back after his first year. It's a really weird situation in Jacksonville. So there you have it. And then we got the two games coming up on Sunday. I like the Chiefs. I like the Eagles. The Commanders have been a great story, and that was a great win over Detroit. The problem is Philadelphia doesn't have the holes defensively that Detroit does. And my guess would be with their defensive front and guys like Jalen Carter, they're going to make life very difficult on Jaden Daniels. That's a physical football team, and they run the football. They have an identity. I don't think they're going to get away from that. And I think in the end, Philadelphia is going to win. And I like Kansas City. I don't overthink these things. Best coach, Kansas City. Best quarterback, Kansas City. They're going to win. And I don't think the Chiefs will make the big mistake. I think they'll win the turnover battle. I think they're going to win the game. And then we'll have the Eagles, Chiefs, a rematch from a couple of years ago, with Kansas City trying to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls, the first of that stretch coming against Philly. But really big fan of Saquon Barkley. Fun to watch him play. The Eagles, very impressed with Nick Sirianni because he's crazy, and he's proven that, but he's found a way to get it done. He's done a heck of a job with this team this year, and they're in a position now to play a home game to get to the Super Bowl. So I like the Eagles to win easily. I think the Bills and Chiefs will come down to the final couple of possessions. Close, tight football game that's going to be awesome to watch. And as I mentioned before, enjoy it. How often do we get the 2 best quarterbacks going head-to-head in these type of games? And yet this is the 4th time these 2 teams have met in recent history in the postseason. I thought Todd made a good point, too, that, Kansas City appears to be invincible, but they have lost 2 home games in the AFC title game to New England and Cincinnati. So you can beat Mahomes. It can be done. But you've got to play near perfect football to make it happen. You got to capitalize on your opportunities. You can't have a special teams disaster like we saw from Houston. That was a complete mess. And then they whined. They go out there, they don't execute, and they have the worst special teams of all time, and they whine and complain about the officiating. It's like, handle your own business, man. What a disaster. The special teams was hideous. Now, I just don't understand how you can get to that level in a game like that and have your special teams go completely sideways. And then you whine and moan about the officiating. Look, we all know the Chiefs get calls. Of course they do. I would much rather, I guess where I come out on the NFL overprotecting quarterbacks, look, it is pathetic that you can't touch quarterbacks. You can't breathe on a quarterback. You can't break wind in the direction of a quarterback. Like, the flag's going to come out. I think you always have to play just with that understanding that if you do anything that's remotely close to being late or above the shoulders, they're going to throw the flag. And I guess I would prefer that they overprotect the quarterbacks and we have to deal with some annoying penalties because we don't want quarterbacks being laid up in the hospital because the league is not nearly as good when you don't have the best of the best playing. Quarterback play is critical. It makes for good football games. And both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are healthy going into the game this weekend, and that's going to make for great football. So I guess in the end, if you have to overprotect the guys, that's fine. Because I grew up in a day and age where you could have 2 or 3 steps and just tee off on a guy. Elway could have played for probably 30 years had he not taken the punishment. Joe Montana, I saw him get wrecked a few times. One time by Jim Burt, no flag. Like 3 steps and just full blast by a defensive lineman. And that stuff went down all the time. But it's just not the way the game's played anymore. As a defender, if you do anything questionable in the direction of a quarterback, the flag's going to fly. So don't do it. Just always work off that understanding. Because most of those late hits, even though they're annoying, we see them like, that's a flag. And we know it's coming. All right, Michael Holton on Hoops. He's going to be in studio next, and we'll talk some ball with him. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. We'll talk Scoot, get his take on the last 5 games, which have been great. Get his take on Shaden's response to being benched and the development of the young players. Michael Holton on Hoops is up next. All right, he's back in studio. Holton on Hoops, the coach, Michael Holton, Trailblazers, radio and television analyst, former Trailblazer himself. And I appreciate making time because I know that you've got stuff going on later on this evening, but we talked yesterday, like, I can make that work. And then here you are. So we get a chance to talk again.
Yeah, holding on hoops, man. Because actually, what I have later after dinner with the family is I have a basketball outreach out in Aloha, and I teach the first 15 minutes to guys that are just coming in and passionate about basketball. So I'm a coach for 15 minutes.
All right, I want you to share a story because you told us something at the game the other night, and you shared it on the broadcast, but I love this story. I don't remember what you called it, but you have the opportunity to bring some kids into Moda Center and kind of walk them around and explain what you do in the NBA game. And there were some interesting interactions with the kids. But what is that? What is it that you do with the kids?
So I have a nonprofit, and we partnered with the Blazers, Youth
Yeah.
Life Skills Academy, and we partnered with the Blazers for what we call the business of sport.
Awesome.
And so I go out, we do a pre-etiquette training. I teach them linen napkin buffet type of deal. And then we bring them and we show them the television broadcast.
They love that. You said they love that.
They love sitting in front of the camera, handling the camera. And then also the player experience. They get to go in the locker room and see that whole. And then we had the content team share with them, which they connected with the most because of,
Oh, really? That's cool.
TikTok, Instagram. That's a world they live in. And so when they saw our content team share their story, and our content team really relates to them because our content team was in high school 6 years ago.
Do you know what's cool is working with you and Trav throughout the course of the year. I've had a chance to see the content team in action, taking photos, getting video, and then putting it to social. Like, that's an entire process. They're prether skilled at it. I'm impressed.
It is an amazing process because it happens in real time in game. So somebody collects the either the still picture or the video, and in real time somebody else sees it, puts the graphic on it, timestamps it, dresses it up, pretties it up,
Yeah.
and bam, and it's posted.
That's great. Now, explain what happened when you brought them out on the floor and had them sit down on the bench.
So we were on the court, and we took a picture at half court, and then I said, all right, time out. I said, okay, you guys are the team. Coach Billups just called timeout. The other team just went on a 10-0 run. Have a seat. And so they sat on the bench in the players' seats. And I said, does anybody want to be head coach? Who's going to be Chauncey Billups? And the girl raised her hand. And she got up. I said, okay, what are you going to say to the team? And she's like, we're better than this. We're better than this. That's not what we practice. Somebody make some threes. Oh, it was hilarious. It was such a moment.
That's so great. It's got to be fun for you at this stage in your life now with all your experience to be able to share with the kids, right?
Yeah, I am passionate about enlarging the world of youth in terms of what's possible. And it really is born from something my mother said to me that just changed my trajectory in life. And she said, son, you can be anything you want to be, but you can't be everything you want to be.
Yeah.
And it took me years to figure out why she said that and what does that mean. Well, it means that you got to make choices and sacrifices and commitment, and you've got to qualify yourself for things that you want. So that has now become a driving thing for me, and I founded this nonprofit in 2021 with the mission of enlarging the world of kids in terms of what's possible.
That's terrific. Michael Holton on Hoops is in studio. I've got to get your take on Scoot Henderson. Last 5 games, he's been sensational. So what are you seeing differently in his game that has allowed him to kind of take that next step over the last 5?
I think it's 2 things. It's situational awareness, and it's making decisions at high speeds. Because Scoot is a high-speed player. He's coming at you. He's coming down. And earlier in his career, he would just take off. He would just leave his feet. And because I suppose that earlier in his basketball journey, he could always leave his feet and be athletic enough to manufacture a successful outcome. And so that was a challenge, I thought, in his transition to the NBA, because you can't do that. And so those opportunities and those passing lanes and those abilities to finish was part of his growth curve. And now he either doesn't leave his feet or he takes another dribble that he doesn't long jump, he high jumps. And so his options and his decision-making at high speeds, once airborne, are dramatically different.
You've gone through the process. You played college basketball at a very high level. Then you went to the NBA. How hard is that adjustment from college or the G League to the NBA with the type of athlete you're facing?
Well, it's hard for me to see it as an outsider. I mean, so I'll answer your question as somebody that had a similar journey. I
Yeah.
wasn't a lottery pick, and I wasn't Scoot Henderson. But I started as a freshman in a national title game, and I played in the CBA and played in the NBA on 10-day contracts and played in pressurized environments.
And you played a ton in your rookie season.
Yeah, I started 59 games in my rookie season. So I say all of that to say playing in pressurized environments are hard, right? I mean, and in the NBA, it's the best players in the world. I have tremendous respect for Scoot because of his resiliency, how he's handled challenges, struggles, and success. He's handled them the same. I mean, his demeanor has been the same. You've never seen a frustrated Scoot.
Yeah.
And you don't see an overly jubilant Scoot right now when he's playing at an extremely high level.
All right. Shaden Sharp was benched a couple of games ago. Coach Bowles came out prior to the game on Sunday and said it's because of defense. He's not giving me what I'm looking for on that end. And, he thinks that Shaden's got a chance to be special. I love what you told me where you said that it's not like he was caught off guard because these are conversations that are either going on in practice or with the players. So he's aware of what's going on in terms of what the coaches aren't happy with, right? Is that how it goes down?
Yeah, I like the pureness of that. And so I want to couch this in something that John Wooden said. He said, it's amazing how well the mind works when flesh hits wood.
Wow.
In other words, the power of the bench. One of the most powerful things a coach has in his arsenal is taking away playing time. You don't see it a lot at the pro level,
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. But when you do see it, it's refreshing to me when a player gets taken out of a game or out of the lineup because of, and fill in the blank. That's coaching, right? That's coaching, and that's trying to get that player on board or to another level.
Yeah.
And so I enjoyed watching it. I understood it. And I understood it in the context of how the team was playing, because the team prior to the last two wins, I thought was struggling more in transition defense than they had earlier in the year. Everybody wasn't getting back.
Yeah.
Make a long story short. Now, that's not Shaden Sharp's fault, but as a coach, you're like, I've got to address this. This is a correctable thing.
I ask you in your coaching career how those type of conversations come up. You said it's one of two ways. You can meet with the player ahead of time, or it's announced in front of the team. Normally in the pro level, it's a one-on-one conversation before it's announced to the team. Is there a right way to handle that, or does it just depend on the team and the player?
It depends on the team and the player and the situation. Ideally for me, I mean, I don't have professional coaching experience. I have college coaching experience, but I've played as a pro for a lot of different coaches. So I've been a part of people handling it different ways. I always thought addressing the team about team issues as a whole was the better way to do it. I didn't like the concept of secrets. Everybody has a one-on-one with the coach, and then everybody tries to figure out what he say to you, what he say to you, what he say to you. I personally didn't like that style. I'm like, hey, look, I'm going to say it out loud in front of everybody. Here's our deal. Here's what we need to do. We need you to be better at this. We got to fix this. We got to fix that. That was my style and my approach to address situations and problems. To address player development, oftentimes I did that individually.
For the coaches you played for in the NBA, who were one or two of the guys you thought were best at communicating with you and the team?
Larry Brown was the best. Larry Brown was the best at being direct with you, in front of the group or personally. I remember when he called me in his office as a freshman and said, I need you to defend and run the team, and I'm thinking about starting you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, what about offense, coach? I mean, no, I need you to, your role is to defend and run the team. Yeah, coach, what about offense? I'm an 18-year-old California co-player of the year, All-American.
Pretty good about your game.
I'm feeling like I'm as good as anybody else in our freshman class. And, what about offense, coach? And I kind of said it a third time to him. And he said, we're having this conversation because I'm thinking about starting you. The alternative is you don't play. And, coach, I can defend and run the team. I accepted the role. And then I realized when we played for a national championship, it wasn't because I accepted the role. It was because he gave everybody a role.
Yeah.
So it was clear to me what my role was.
That's great. All because he communicated directly with you on what he needed from you.
Yeah, and I tried to stump him one more time. I said, Coach, what kind of shots can I take? And he said the craziest, funniest, most demeaning thing a coach has ever said to me. He said, if you have an open shot and Rod Foster or Kiki Vandeweghe have an open shot, I expect you to make an extra pass. Other than that, you can shoot if your man falls down.
Did he say that with a straight
He
face?
said you can shoot if your man falls down. I didn't know how to take that. I just was so offended.
All right, we got to talk about Denny Avdia. He is our favorite player. I know you're a fan. I'm a fan. I just love the way he plays. I just was wondering, like, do you think maybe the team's even that he's exceeded the front office's expectations with the way he's played and the impact he's had on this team? Because he's really blown me away with the on-court play, but also his leadership that we're seeing in the locker room and his comments with teammates.
Yeah, I don't think he's over exceeded, and I'm a person that doesn't believe that overachieve is a thing because you wouldn't do it if you couldn't do it. But that's a different conversation. Denny Avdia was really good with the Wizards.
He was.
Right? I mean, if you go back and you look at, so it's not a surprise. This is not his first rodeo. I think what's surprising to Blazer fans was that he struggled early as a starter, or struggled may be too strong a word. He just didn't play as well as he's playing now, and it was our first impression of him.
Yeah,
being the fans.
But I remember asking you about that, and you weren't concerned because you said, "Hey, he's new team, new coaching staff. He's just trying to find his way. He'll be fine." And you were right about that.
Well, yeah, because I knew that when this season started that there were 3 or 4 major moving pieces in this environment. One being Scoot's development,
Critical.
two being health and who's going to be available, and 3 being what is the relationship of veterans and young guys going to be on this team, because that third one, really, Denny Avdia is in the middle. He's right in the middle of that mix of he's not a veteran, but he's not a young guy.
Yeah. How do you think the vets have done with the young guys so far this year?
I think they've done a great job in terms of just being positive and supportive and everybody pulling on the same rope. And back to Denny, I think he's been the most impactful in terms of leadership. And, I think DA is, I'll go get it, right?
Yeah.
I'll be your pressure release. I'll go get what I'm going to go get. But I'm not going to be a rah-rah guy holding guys accountable on the floor. I just don't think DA's that guy, right? And I don't think Jeremy Grant's that guy, right? They both know how to punch the clock and do their job.
Yeah.
Denny Avdia is that guy.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, one thing I did make a note I wanted to ask you about, you've said that DeAndre Ayton is a great pressure release for the offense. What does that mean exactly when you talk about him being a pressure release?
So DA is the primary screen setter in the middle of the floor in the 1-5 screen roll, and then he rolls. So if you double or blitz, everybody likes to say, the ball handler, DA is the pocket pass recipient in the middle of the defense. That's a pressure release. If DA is on the baseline and a guard is having problems or doubled, or DA's the guy that flashes right into that sweet spot in the mid-range. He does it for everybody on the team, and everybody knows if you get DA a touch in the elbow area and mid-range area, he's going to get a quality shot.
Yeah, he's really good in that mid-range game. Now, the young players on the team, whether it be Scoot, Shaden, Tamani, Denny Avdia, Donovan Clingan, how do you think Chauncey Billups and the staff have done it, bringing the young players along and developing them?
I think everybody has developed well. I mean, you can go down each one of those guys and say, oh, when the season started, they were playing like this, and here's what I have seen.
Yeah.
And you can say it about each guy, and Matisse Thybulle hasn't played yet. And to me, he's in that mix too. He's not necessarily that young guy, but he plays a similar position that the young guys play. And I'm kind of always a little bit concerned because you can only play 5 guys at a time.
Yeah.
And if everybody's healthy, I mean, we can have a long conversation about what that means in terms of who starts and minutes. But those are good problems to have.
All right, the trade deadline's coming up shortly at the beginning of February. But what are the locker rooms like? Does it change when you get close to the deadline in terms of what could or could not happen? How does that impact players?
It does. It does. And players don't like to admit it. Everybody just kind of says the right thing. Oh, yeah, I've been through this before. And, but they're human beings, right?
Yeah.
And a trade is a major thing.
Yeah, upheaval.
Right? It's your family. It's because what happens is the player moves immediately. And now the family's left behind to pick up, to oversee the packing. Now you're trying to figure out players in temporary housing. When does the wife's significant other come? Are you buying? Are you renting? I mean, there's a lot with involuntary relocation, right?
Involuntary relocation. That's a great way to put it.
And so what happens is it becomes this cloud over the league until the trade deadline passes.
Yeah.
Because everybody's whispering, talking, posting. it's just an awkward time.
Yeah, very awkward. When does it start up? Like the new year? Like when January hits, that's when players start to really pay attention to that?
I think there's a couple of times in the season. I with the trade deadline, I'd say about 21 days out.
Uh-huh.
30, about 2-3 weeks, players are like, okay, it's coming. I mean, it's around the corner. Conversations are happening.
Yeah.
I'm hearing, I'm overhearing. And there's a similar time around the All-Star break. When you get about 10 days out from the All-Star break, it's a mental challenge for players because some check out, some plan vacation, and now they have this distraction. So there's a couple times in this season where that happens.
The involuntary relocation, you went through it yourself. Do teams help with temporary housing? Like, how do they help you assimilate to a new area?
It's you're unbelievably supported in this involuntary relocation. I mean, I never was traded, but I went in the expansion draft from Portland to Charlotte, and I experienced the team handling the relocation. It was awesome. They come in and pack every dish, every spoon, every fork, label it, and then unpack it and put it where you want them to put it. So they do everything they can, right? So you don't do the heavy lifting, of moving, right?
Oh, that's good.
But even with that concierge treatment, right, which is extraordinary, let's call it what it is, you're still relocated.
Yeah.
You're still uprooted. And I'm not talking about this like we should be feeling sorry for players that get traded. I'm trying to speak to the humanity, to the humanness, to their people part of it.
Yeah, it's the reality of the impact on, teams, especially with teams that could have a lot of moves.
And then the other part, because I cried. When I went in the expansion draft, I cried. My wife came in the room like, what is wrong with you? I said, babe, I finally found a home in Portland, this team. I played in all 82 games. I have a role. It's been so hard to land and be a part of, and now I'm leaving again. And so I was crying. I was really sad. And she said, but the other team wants you. I was like, we don't know that.
Leave it to your wife to bring some wisdom to the conversation. Who was your first coach? Who was the first coach of Charlotte? I can't remember.
Dick Harder.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man. Everybody around here, kamikaze kids. Dick Harder was the coach of the expansion Charlotte Hornets.
Dude, I've talked to Rob Kloss. He said the practices with Coach Harder were legendary.
Yeah, and he toned it down, I think, when he got to the pro level, but he was still a taskmaster, and certainly at the point guard position, he was a taskmaster. I mean, he was all over me about detail. He said, you can't ever, ever, ever not deliver a pass on time on target. Ever. Right? I was like, okay, coach, I heard you the first time.
That's so good. All right, Michael Holton, Holton on Hoops. I appreciate your time, my friend. You got to get out to Aloha now. You got events going on tonight.
Yeah, I got to do some coaching. Got to coach them up.
All right, tomorrow, first of back-to-back games. So the Trailblazers, that was a good win last night in Miami. They got out to a big lead, had that huge run in the third, and then they held off the Heat after their run in the fourth quarter.
No, I like the fact that they played with a lead and held on, because that's an important part of learning. This team has played from behind so many minutes this season. Learn how to play with a lead.
Yeah, nice to see Ant get that shooting touch back, too.
Feathery.
All right, Michael Holton, Holton on Hoops in studio joining us. We'll come back and finish out the show. Appreciate your time here on the Rip City Drive. All right, big thanks to Michael Holton for joining us in studio. I love talking ball with him, but the conversation's so good it goes by too quick. But he's one of those guys. Very thankful to have him in my life, and I learn a lot from Michael. The more I get around guys who have played the game, ex-pros, the more I realize I don't understand much of anything, to put it nicely, because there's just things they pick up on and see that I don't, because I don't have that type of experience. Never been in a locker room, and Michael's coached and played at a high level too. Boy, Dick Harder in your first year in the NBA. Jeez. And I've talked to Rob Kloss. He's told me time and time again that, Harder was hardcore. Larry Bird, when he became coach of the Pacers, hired Rick Carlisle to be his offensive guy, Dick Harder to be his defensive guy. It's a pretty good staff right there. All right. So tomorrow, we got Blazer games on back-to-back nights. They'll be in Orlando tomorrow, at Charlotte on Friday. I think there might be snow in North Carolina. Did I see it snowing in Florida too? Bizarre. Really bizarre to see that. And then no games on Saturday, but they're going to play a matinee game on Sunday, which is unfortunate because of the football games that are going to be played, but it is what it is. So the Blazers tomorrow, Friday, and Sunday, and then we'll be a couple of weeks out from the Super Bowl coming up on February 9th, which is going to be awesome. Looking forward to the games on Sunday. Really big games. Can't wait to see it. But I'm excited about the youth development with the Blazers. That's the best takeaway from the season thus far, is the development of the youth, the way that we're seeing the guys coming along, Scoot, Shaden, Tamani, Denny, and Klingon. Those are 5, building blocks moving into the future that you can combine with your top pick that will be coming up in this year's draft, which is nice. So I like Kansas City, and I like Philadelphia to advance. That's how I see it going down, and we'll get a rematch from the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I really think that's the way it's going to go. So there you have it. Now, there was a bizarre some of these rumors that come out now. I don't even know who this guy is, but sources confirm that the Phoenix Suns and the Trailblazers have been in discussion in recent days for a deal that would send Yusuf Nurkic back to Portland. Denny Avdia and Dewap Reef would be headed to Phoenix in the deal. That's total nonsense. It's not happening. The Blazers are not dealing Avdia. And they're certainly not going to do it to bring Nurk back. You got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Hope you got to listen to the Stern interview with Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog. Very informative. I have not heard that yet today. There's so much stuff going on that it's hard to keep track of everything. But I do enjoy it. YouTube, flipping through, get different interviews, different discussions. I might have to get stuck in YouTube mode tonight. Maybe I can back away from the Contra. Man, those old video games. Love it. Absolutely love it. Can't believe they got a video game system that's smaller than the original that's got a microchip in it that has 821 games. How's that possible? Mind-blowingly awesome. All right. But that's what's going on. It's all about Championship Sunday. And then we'll see who is going to be the matchup in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, we have just over 200 days remaining until the beginning of college football again. So we're entering into the lean time of the year sports-wise where we're going to be without football, and then we got to wait for football to start again. What a great season it was. And I can't wait to see how things shake out next year. But Oregon's going to be legit again. Love the expanded playoff. I thought the season all the way through the championship was a smash success. I realize it's not perfect yet, but they're going to keep building and tinkering with things to make it better. Love that. Excited about the Sun Devils, too, because they have so many guys returning, like 16, 17 starters who'll be back, including Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson. The Ducks are loaded up. Yeah, it's going to be great. Going to be good. The Beavers have a quarterback, so there's going to be a lot of good things, but unfortunately, we got to wait. We got to wait, but I am going to make a trip out to this place in Hillsboro. Next level. Never been there. Can't wait to check it out. They've got a list of all the machines in their collection. Unbelievable. Arcades and photos. One of the world's largest arcades with over 650 games. Aliens, 1943, air hockey, Batman. Bubble Bobble, never heard of that. Burger Time. Centipede.
High impact football.
I would imagine they've got it. Commando, Clutch Hitter. That's a good one. Cruisin'. I used to play that after my shift at Red Robin all the time. They've got all the Donkey Kongs, the original Double Dragon, which was the ultimate two-man game. They've got every flipping game you can imagine. Good gracious. Galaga. Ghostbusters. Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghosts and Goblins. Hopefully they've got, there it is, Karate Champ. Amazing. Joust. I've got to get there. So good. Mario Brothers. It's amazing, too, because they've kept all these machines well maintained. Mortal Kombat, all of them. Mr. Do. All the Pac-Mans, including Super Miss Pac-Man, which is terrific.
Do they have Dwight Jane's Paperboy machine?
I'm sure they do. The original Pac-Man. This is great. Okay, I've got to get Cubert. $22, you get to play as many games as you want. You got to be kidding me. Robotron. Amazing. Okay, I'm in. 100% in. The question is, do they have Yi Ar Kung Fu? Let's scroll down. Where are the Ys? Oh, this is good. Okay, I'm in. I'm 100% in. Those are the days. The arcades. It's pretty cool that they have all these games, too. So good. All right. And the pinball machines, too. All the games and photo. I've never been there. Got to check it out. Got to check it out. Got to get there. Elsewhere in baseball, pretty cool to see Ichiro. I think the Mariners are going to retire his jersey. One vote shy of being unanimous. I'd be curious to know who the guy was that didn't vote for him as unanimous. All right, that's going to do it for us. So tomorrow, Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 2. Tip-off with Orlando at 4 here on 620 Rip City Radio. Same thing with Friday. We're back on Monday.